This week we got the AFC West. And the AFC West, I think in a few years, can possibly be the best division in the NFL. I mean, the Raiders, last year seemed like a mess. Last offseason, Gruden sold the whole team, it feels like. And everybody was clowning the Raiders, but now, a season later, you're kind of starting to see the picture of what the Raiders are starting to build. And, a couple more strong draft classes, the Raiders might be able to do something. Of course, you got Patrick Mahomes lighting up the league last year in his first year starting. You got the Broncos, who I think have a pretty good roster. It's just that question mark at the quarterback position. Can Joe Flacco come in here and be elite? Or is Drew Lock going to take over and, be their franchise quarterback? Or maybe they don't have a franchise quarterback on the roster and they end up drafting one here in a few years. And then you got the Chargers, who have probably the most talented roster in the NFL. But you do have Phillip Rivers, who is a little bit up there in age. So they got to find a replacement for Rivers soon. But for the time being, they're in good shape. Now, let's start off with the team that I think is going to finish last in this division, and that's the Oakland Raiders. I have them finishing with a 5-11 record. And I know I just said some good things about the Raiders, but I also said they're a few years away from actually being able to do something, and I stand behind that 100% because Derek Carr, I'm not too sure about him. I'm not sure if he's the guy. He could just be a jag, just another guy, a placeholder guy. To me, Derek Carr is nothing that impressive. Offensive line, they added Trent Brown. They drafted a rookie last year. Their offensive line seems to be trending in the right direction. Obviously in 2016, the Raiders had one of the most dominant lines, but that was 3 years ago. And in the NFL, 3 years ago is an eternity. These teams change year in and year out. But now with the addition of Trent Brown and the rookie they drafted last year in the first round, they're trending in the right direction, trying to build up that old line for Derek Carr. Obviously drafted Josh Jacobs in the first round with the 24th pick. And, they're trying to establish a run game. Like I said earlier, they brought in Antonio Brown. And even though I know a lot of people might dislike Antonio Brown, they might clown Antonio Brown for being a clown, I guess. And, being a drama queen or whatever you want to say about Antonio Brown. But Antonio Brown is still Antonio Brown. He's one of the best receivers in the league, top 3 receiver in the league, along with DeAndre and Julio. If you want to debate Michael Thomas or, Odell Beckham, get out of here, because everybody knows AB, D-Hop, and Julio are the top 3 receivers in the league. Anyone else? No. Anyways, AB is still a top receiver in the league now. Obviously, Big Ben's a better quarterback than Derek Carr, so AB's numbers might suffer a little bit, but I do think Antonio Brown will still have an impact on the game. Defensively, though, the Raiders, I'm not a big fan. I think that's where their shortcomings will come. I think offensively, they have a pretty good offense, a decent O-line. Derek Carr, who is probably average, I'll put him around Kirk Cousins level. Antonio Brown, they got Josh Jacobs to help their run game. But defensively, I need some more help. They do have a couple players that I like in that secondary, like Carl Joseph and Garyon Conley. But other than that, there's not really much. They did draft Clelin Ferrell, so there is that. So they have that going for them. But like I said, maybe add a free agent next year on the defensive side of the ball, draft a defensive player in the first round next year, and then, maybe the Raiders start looking good. Now, the team I have coming in third place in this division is the Denver Broncos with an 8-8 record. I really liked the Broncos draft. I liked what they did this offseason. They signed Jawan James, right tackle from the Miami Dolphins. Now, Jawan James isn't like some godly guy, but he's average. and average is better than what the Broncos had at the right tackle spot. Not only that, in the draft, they brought in Dalton Risner, and Dalton Risner was one of my draft crushes, man. Dalton Risner was someone I wanted the Texans to get, so I absolutely loved that pick. I think Dalton Risner can be a starter for the Broncos O-line for years to come, whether it's at right guard, right tackle, center, left guard, wherever they want to put him, besides maybe left tackle. He's going to do good for them. Not only that, something that a lot of people might be overlooking when it comes to the Denver Broncos is they were able to get Mike Munchak away from the Steelers. So now Mike Munchak is coaching the Broncos O-line. And if you guys don't know, Mike Munchak is considered one of the best offensive line coaches. So, after so many years of this Broncos O-line being bad, it's trending in the right direction. And, with Mike Munchak there, they might be a strength on this Broncos team. And that quarterback, you got Joe Flacco. Let's be real, Joe Flacco was never elite. And I don't know what Joe Flacco was going to do with this team, honestly. I'm kind of curious to see, not going to lie. I think Joe Flacco should start all year, though. I don't think Drew Lock should be thrown into the fire just yet. Just leave Flacco out there, let him manage the game, hand the ball off to Phillip Lindsay. I think Phillip Lindsay is going to have a great year running behind that O-line. And they also drafted Noah Fant in the first round as well, who is also a very good tight end. He can run block. He can pretty much do everything. Obviously, he's not as good as T.J. Hawkinson, his teammate that got drafted before him. But Noah Fant is still a very good tight end, and he'll be a very good tight end for the Broncos. And, defensively, the Broncos, they still have Chris Harris. They got Von Miller, paired him with Bradley Chubb last year. So, they're doing good. Chubb and Von Miller, even though the rest of their defense isn't exactly all that impressive, having Chubb and Von Miller coming at you from both sides, that's going to put any quarterback under duress. So I think the Broncos go 8-8, and I think they're trending in the right direction. Coming in second place in this division, I got the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know Chiefs fans are going to hate me. I know some people are going to call me crazy, but I stand behind this. I have the Chiefs going 9-7. That's right. Probably could have been worse if, Tyreek Hill would have been suspended how he should have been suspended. But, he's not suspended for whatever reason. I don't really care about that, but, he's playing this year, so they're going to do better than I initially would have thought. But I feel like the Chiefs this year are going to take a huge step back. Why? I hate this saying, but this saying is 100% true. Regression to the mean. Last year, what Patrick Mahomes did was unheard of. Patrick Mahomes is not going to do that again. I'm sorry to burst y'all's bubbles, but Patrick Mahomes isn't going to pass for 500 yards and 50 touchdowns. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is going to pass for 2 touchdowns and 192 interceptions. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's more likely that instead of having 50 touchdowns and 14 interceptions that he had last year, he's probably more likely to have 36 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That's a huge, jump down. And if you guys recall last year, the Chiefs' weakness was their defense. And defensively, they got worse. Anyone who says otherwise, well, you're just being biased. Why did they get worse? Well, first of all, they lost Justin Houston, even though they cut him. They lost Justin Houston and D Ford. Yes, they replaced one of them with Frank Clark, but what about the other guy? You're only replacing one, so now you can't bring as much pressure from different locations. Now you got is Frank Clark and Chris Jones. And don't get me wrong, I love Chris Jones. He is amazing, and If it wasn't for Aaron Donald being Aaron Donald, I think a lot of people would be talking about Chris Jones. Defensively, they're not good. They lost their top corner, Steven Nelson, even though some Chiefs fans seem to think Steven Nelson was a complete bum. I disagree. Steven Nelson was the most targeted corner in the league, and he still performed adequately. Now, there was some times where he did suck, but for the most part, he held his own, and being the top targeted corner in the league, I mean, what can you ask for? The guy was top targeted corner in the league, and he still did decent. And that's an average corner, a solid number 2 corner, and now they don't have nothing there. And to make things worse, the Chiefs spent $14 million on average a year on Tyrann Mathieu. You might think that's a good thing, but believe me, as a Texans fan, I saw Tyrann Mathieu play last year. I too was excited when Tyrann Mathieu first signed to the Texans. I was like, oh my god, we got Tyrann Mathieu. And then Cardinals fans came in. They told us, oh, Tyrann Mathieu's not the same guy as he was before. He sucks. He's slow. He's a liability in coverage. And you know what I said? I was like, no, you're wrong. That's Tyrann Mathieu. That's the Honey Badger. He's good. You're just mad because he left your team. And I'm pretty sure Chiefs fans are saying the same thing to me and other Texans fans that tell him that. And it makes sense, He's a big name player, Honey Badger, but trust me, the guy is an absolute liability in coverage. He don't have the long speed to cover sideline to sideline. He can't cover tight ends. I mean, he's just a box safety. And every now and then, he does miss tackles. But I will say this about Tyrann. He's a willing tackler. I mean, he ain't scared of no one. He'll go for the hit. He might miss, but he's going for the hit. He's going for the tackle. So, that's probably the only positive thing I can say about Tyrann Mathieu. But in terms of coverage, not so good. And, of course, the team I have coming in first place in this division is the LA Chargers. Like I said earlier in this video, man, the Chargers are probably the most talented team in the league. I have them getting a 12-4 record. I have them being legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And I mean, just look at their roster. It's stacked. You got Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Defensively, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa. They just drafted Jerry Tillery, a guy to bring pressure from the inside. And if you guys watched that playoff game against the Patriots last year, one of the things the Chargers struggled with was pressuring the quarterback from the inside. And now they got Jerry Tillery to get that done. And then, on the back end, Casey Hayward, Derwin James. The Chargers are just stacked pretty much everywhere you look besides maybe linebacker, although they did add old man Thomas Davis, and personally, I'm a fan of Denzel Perryman. And then offensive line, some people might say it's a weakness, but they do have Pouncey, and they do have Forrest Lamp, who's a young guard who I really wanted the Texans to draft a couple years ago. So I think they have talent pretty much everywhere, and I think it's hard to find a team that rivals the Chargers when it comes to just pure talent alone. Maybe you could make an argument for the Eagles, and you might be right. Maybe the Eagles have more talent than the Chargers, but to say that there's a team in this division that is more talented than the Chargers, yeah, I'd have to disagree with you. I think the Chargers run away with this division. Sorry, Chiefs fans. I do like your team offensively. Like, Jesus Christ, you guys are stacked. But defensively, that will be the Chiefs' downfall. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys for today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.